flag. That's a flag. Awesome drive, man. Awesome drive.
It's nice to close out a race like that. That was awesome.
This is the Team Blaney Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to 2023 season episode 10 of the Team Blaney Podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me, as always, is co-host Steve Mez. This podcast is brought to you by fans for fans. Steve and I have been following the drivers of the Blaney racing family for 2 decades, and then Team Blaney itself launched on social media in 2014. Each weekly episode of the podcast offers an in-depth analysis of Ryan Blaney's latest NASCAR Cup Series race, plus news, notes, and a lineup of special guests all throughout the year. This week, we break down the number 12 team's run in the Toyota Owners 400 at Richmond Raceway. Steve, welcome back for yet another week of the Team Blaney Podcast. Again, fresh off that race, first race of the short track swing here for the NASCAR Cup Series. And before we get into anything, because I have a feeling how this episode might go, I want to talk about some W's for the weekend. The first one being Larry McReynolds back in the booth. I know you don't listen to the TV broadcast most of the time because you're pretty intent on taking notes and listening to the radio and the communication between Josh and Jonathan and Ryan. But for the most part, I have the TV up, and this was probably the most. I know I've been to a few races this year, so I've missed some of the TV work, but it's probably the most stable broadcast crew of the year. I felt like Larry kept Clint kind of in check. He didn't turn into a sideshow or anything like that. And he just brings a lot of information to the table. And he's, worked so well with Mike Joy because they worked together for so long prior to Larry being put in his room at the home base in Charlotte there while everybody else is at the track. W number 2 for the weekend was the package, I think. This short track package and road course package that NASCAR has brought to the table this year worked really, really well at COTA. It worked really, really well at Richmond, I thought, because there's multiple grooves throughout entire runs, which was crazy to see, especially early on in the race. I think we got that idea that it was going to work because the 47 car, which unfortunate for them, they ended up having a mechanical failure, but was able to run this crazy high groove and make up a lot of time. Restarts were exciting as always, even at Richmond, but comers and goers, unfortunately we got to see Ryan move up through the field a couple of times because of some issues, but people could pass. And that's honestly something we haven't seen probably in the last 4 or 5 years at that track. And I thought it was really great to see.
Yeah. What do you have, about 20 some lead changes, something like that? I mean, it was, there was some back and forth. It got spread out a little bit, but the tire strategy is what really made it a race. The 2 to 2 second difference after 10, 15, 20 laps, guys, breaking up the stages based on tire wear. It's funny. They usually give you a fuel window before the race, and this time nobody did. It was like, who cares about the fuel? We're going to get tires before anything else happens. So, there was a lot of varying strategies on the tire wear. But there was some actual passing. Watching Ryan through the day, he was better in certain cars, and he was able to get around them. Certain cars, after a while, though, if they ran the same exact line, you had to do something about it. And Ryan
saw that.
Ryan did it a couple times. It's really kind of cool to watch. From they had the in-car camera that was one of the ones that Fox was using for the race, and on it, a couple times they had the camera down on the bumper.
Yep.
And that's the best because it comes up, you see it coming up on something, and all of a sudden, as we'll talk about a little later, and things start moving. And it was really kind of cool to watch that. So overall, I mean, the racing itself, it looks good so far. We'll see. I want to really see how it does at Martinsville or anything else, because that's last year with the shifting and everything, where everything, didn't seem like they were shifting this track yesterday or Sunday. So that's where it's going to make a big difference. See how the shifting goes at Martinsville. Of course, this week coming up, it doesn't matter what the package is. You're going to go sideways on the dirt. So I can't wait for that too.
Yeah, but it was really, really good to see. You mentioned that the field did get strung out at times, and the Hendrick cars, when they were leading, that lead car would sometimes get out to about a 2-second lead, but by the end of that tire run, they almost always got passed. So like you said, a lot of it's about, tire strategy, saving your tires, Maybe they go a little bit too hard early in a run. You mentioned, and we'll get into it, kind of Ryan's aggression in this race was because of it being with the in-car. Honestly, the in-car cameras all race, I don't know, Fox just got lucky multiple times of being on an in-car right when action did happen, when somebody spun. So, and we'll talk about that because that did come off the front bumper of Ryan's car once and then almost a second time throughout this race. So, like I said, W for the weekend. Larry McReynolds, really glad that he was back in the booth, and really glad that there was something that Richmond, I don't want to call it the action track again. They used to call it the action trap, but it showed a little bit of its old self, and that was really great to see. But let's
here's another W for the weekend. Practice and qualifying got rained out.
And, quite honestly, you have to wonder if that help the racing, because sometimes that does. The guys don't have a chance to shake their cars down and make some last minute adjustments, and we saw that during the pandemic year and everything, that the racing was good all year, even with that old car, because it shook the field up a little bit by not being able to actually test their setups out on track and just rely on the computer simulation.
Yeah, you don't have to dial. When they get that 20 minutes of practice, even when it's only 20 minutes, they're able to dial in certain things that they've already had built into the car. And when you don't have that, well, now that competition caution at lap 30, that's what ends up being the only thing that's bad about the whole situation is Ryan's finished the week before in the Matrix and everything else. He started 17th. So they chose pit stall 40, which is really, really kind of cool. The pit stall at the end of pit road, the far end, I really like it. They're doing a great job of hitting the timing line just right, getting to the box. And for the most part, it was a really advantageous most of the day.
I can tell you, this wasn't at Richmond, but that race, you were at as well in the stands of the Southern 500 at Darlington. And we got to watch it from the pit box. And it's super exciting when you're the first car to hit basically your stop, and he can kind of come in a little bit hot, and that's kind of the view you got from the in-car camera too. Was really cool, and they picked that. So we've talked about pit selection before. Jonathan Hassler's always picking something where it's clear in or clear out, or at least, and then sometimes if he can, clear in, clear out, and then also next to like the 77 car or the 15 or the 51, somebody that he's most likely not going to be pitting with.
Yeah, they had the 13 in front of them, and after a while, that becomes no issue. Stages of 70, 230, and 400. Competition caution was at lap 30. 10 sets of tires. They figured like 50 to 75 laps on a set of tires, depending on the strategy. A lot of it was actually a little shorter than that. A lot of times. The start of the race, the leader, which was the 48 on the pole, he took the bottom. And I have a lap one here. Ryan is behind the 34, and I have I hate to be mean. I wrote down 34 sucks. And that's the way I felt watching him, because he was slower than he was holding up, not just Ryan, but a bunch of people behind them. So at lap 3, he's still 17th. By lap 6, though, he does pass the 34, gets to 16th. And at lap 8, they pass the 54 to get to 15th. Lap 10, Ryan says it's wrecking loose. Lap 15, they pass the 20. Oh, I'm sorry, the 20 passes. He's in the 16th, but he's 3 wide with the 99 at this point too. Lap 20, I got the 24 is actually taking the lead at this point, and at lap 29, he runs the 38 out of the way. That's the way I have it written. Runs him out of the way.
Man, I almost forgot about that one. Yeah, that's another one to add to the. That's number one for the list.
That's number one. Yeah, there you go. Up to 15th. Ryan says he's loose loose off. And they are. Let's see here. Okay, so they're at the end of the stage there. Or not stage, I'm sorry, at the competition caution, lap 30 there. So they're pitting. Everybody's taking 4 tires, of course. They're in 15th. They're out 11th. They gained 4 spots on this yellow flag pit stop right off the bat. The 11 actually has a penalty here, too, so I think Ryan ends up being 10th for the restart. The leader is the 1. He taking the bottom, Ryan taking the top. The restart, lap 32. He's all the way up to 8th. So pretty much moving right direction here. Caution at lap 45 when the 11 punted the 15 here. And the one is leading Ryan is in 8th, and they do not pit here. Jonathan says it depends on if everybody in front of him come in with them, unless you can get to the front row. Well, nobody comes in pretty much. Everybody behind them takes tires or whatever. Like 6, there's a buffer of like 6 people behind him. So Ryan, the one chooses the bottom, Ryan takes the top, then the restart lap 50. At lap 54, the 6 gets by, so he's back to 9th. At lap 55, the 20 passes back to 10th. At lap 58, the 14 passes. He's actually in 14th at this point. So he had a wiggle somewhere in there or something, and a couple people got by him. At lap 66, he's in 11th, 7 seconds back at the 24. And the 24 ends up winning the stage. Ryan ends up 11th. So he's close to a stage point there. Pretty good job, though, from the beginning of the race, 17th to 11th in that short first stage. Ryan says something like he's burning the rears off of it. They're pitting. They're coming in 11th, and they leave pit row 12th. So they actually do lose a spot here, but Ryan actually on pit road says it out loud. That's my mistake. My bad. Oh, and he was kind of hoping that nobody saw it because they left the pits, and did they say anything or something like that was said? Like, and Josh says on the backstretch, Josh says, up, they posted it. Sections 4 and 5, he was speeding. Ryan says he double shifted. So, there was something he did with the shifter where he, hit it up and up too fast or something to the wrong gear, and it took off on him. And ouch! I mean, it's puts your tail on the longest line.
Luckily this happens under caution in this instance. And unfortunately, Ryan maybe gets 1 speeding penalty a season, maybe 2 for the whole season. And I don't want to say it's becoming a pattern, but this is the second one in the last 3 weeks, second one last 4 weeks or so, where he's been caught speeding on pit road. So not something you want to see happen.
Well, this isn't even like this isn't even a problem with setting the pit road speed either, because that I do listen to that during the pre-race when they come down pit road, and it's generally where they have a 5 mile an hour buffer. So this time I think it was 40 miles an hour, so they can go up to 45 but not over. And I think Jonathan said it was like 44.7 or something like that. So I mean, they were just under. They know exactly where they're at. They know exactly what lights to be on the dashboard. They know what segments they can go a little harder, like on the lights, which might be on the turns and so forth. So they have that to a science. And this was an actual, like he said he double shifted. So I mean, he's saying that he did something mechanically that caused the speed to be too much, not his foot, not just his foot. Yeah. So.
And I think I remember in those pace laps, Jonathan, when you're talking about what they talk about on the radio, he actually said, like, that's okay, but nothing more than that. Yeah, no more than that. So I think if he double shifts like that, it's going to set the rev limiter up real high, and that's just going to automatically ding you, I think, for speeding.
It jumped just a little too much. So tailing the longest line, restarting and all the way back to 34th now, and at lap 80, the 24 is leading. Lap 83 is up to 30th. At lap 86, he passes 77. He's up to 29th. At lap 89, he passes the 42 and the 21 to get to 27th. And at lap 95, he punts the 9 car to get to 26th. And he says something on the radio to the effect of, it was my fault. That was my fault or something like that. But then he says something like, you can't park it in the corner.
Yeah,
is what he says. And watching in car, lap after lap of following the 9, he was trying to figure out how to get around them, but they were running a similar line. And Ryan's right front corner was getting down to the left rear of the 9, but he couldn't get all the way below him to make passes the way the 9 was running that corner, especially in 3 and 4. So after 3 or 4 laps of this, I think that Ryan got a run, and he just, he had a run. He had a run, and the 9 didn't. And the 9 went for a little spin.
Yeah, that's number 2 on the list for the day. At least when he got the 38, he just kind of got him out of shape and passed him. The 9, he sends spinning. I think Clint on the broadcast, kind of immediately said, pointed out that the 9, Ryan called it parking it in the middle. He said, he's just way too slow through the center of the turn. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, if you're gonna luckily there was no damage, so the 9 wasn't out of the race or anything, and obviously he rebounds for a really, really good day.
Yeah, really
but I'm glad that they were unscathed, and hopefully there's not too many sour feelings after that incident.
So going in 26th, they come out 21st, so they're +5 on this yellow pit stop. And actually, there's a penalty or two, because when they come back out for the choose cone, he's up to 19th. The 24 takes the bottom, Ryan takes the top. At lap 100, they restart here. By lap 105, passes the 10 car up to 18th. At 107, passes the 7 up to 17th. At lap 112, passes the 45 up to 16th. 24 is leading during this. Lap 124, I got the 5 car taking the lead off the 24. So now we start at lap 135, the green flag pitting. And I've wrote down he was in 17th at this point. And when green flag pitting happens, I try to keep track of the whole cycle, so that a lot of times they'll gain a position or two during a cycle, because somebody will make a mistake or somebody won't do very good. And with the tire wear, if you go a little earlier than another car or two, you might gain a second or two on the track. But at lap 136, he bumps the 23 out of the way, his little buddy.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to. There is a point, we're going to talk about it later in the race, when the 23 comes up behind the 12 and takes what, I don't want to say he's taking a swipe at him, but takes a few pretty aggressive moves to the rear. And I said, oh, here, this is when this is going to come around. But luckily, after that, he actually fell back. So, yeah. But yeah, this is number 3 on the day, where Ryan's used the front bumper a little bit.
And it gets by him to 15th. At lap 142, he's about a second and a half back of the next guy in front of him. So, at lap 144, I got the 9 car pitting. At lap 146, he's catching the 8 car. He's only 1 second back of the 8 car at this point. At lap 152, passes the 8 car, gets to 14th. Josh tells them we're about 10 or 12 away from pitting. At lap 161, a lot of cars start to pit now. Lap 162, he's all the way up to 3rd, which is kind of cool. They're trying to ride this out a little bit, maybe catch a caution, catch some track position. But at lap 165, they do come in and pit. This is our incident. It's a meme already. NASCAR Chasm's got it out there all over the place. He's made 6 different jokes on it. Gladly, nobody got hurt. That's the first thing I thought of when you see the guy tumbling in the back. And he went down, and I think it was Flores on the front tried to get it out of there too. On the radio, it's more or less Josh just says we've got to come back around and serve a penalty, and he didn't even say what. He just said we have to come back to our box. So they do come back around, and this does pretty much put them a lap down into 30th.
If people somehow don't know what happened, came in for a routine pit stop under green, unfortunately. So, remember, Ryan makes a mistake earlier in the race on pit road and speeds. For that penalty, they're able to just start at the tail of the longest line. So this is a green flag cycle. So they go to make a wedge change in the back, which we really have not seen many of those this year. So most of the time when they've done adjustments, it's been air pressure, stagger, some kind of stuff they don't really have to do with any wrenches or anything like that. So they go to put a wrench in the rear window here on the driver's side of the car. The wrench, the jack drops, Ryan goes to take off while, the guy's still back there finishing the adjustment, gets hung up, the car's taken off. Flores looks like he tries to jump up there and get it. Both of those guys tumble onto the ground pretty hard. And because of that, that's removing equipment from the pit box, and that's immediately penalty 1. They have to come in and get it out of there, get the wrench out of the window, and serve that penalty. So unfortunately, on a short track, that's going to set you back a lap or two, and it's difficult for us because we're such big fans of Ryan, we're big fans of the team, and we don't want to just come out and pretend like we want to gloss over this and make excuses. I mean, the only thing that we can bring up, and I think Steve might have some insights or stats on this, is that there was a ton of mistakes on pit road in this race, and honestly, there's a ton of mistakes pretty much every week. Unfortunately, this one was broadcast live on the air, as it was happening. And so it was very evident. And that, like Steve would say, is we never see the good stuff.
Yeah.
They were gaining so much on pit road all day long, multiple positions.
Five yellow caution pit stops that they did take, plus 12 spots on pit road under the caution pit stops. The one that's one of the ones under green, we have an issue. Like you said, you don't ever see those other 5 stops. You didn't see anything. As a matter of fact, you didn't even know about the pit road, the speeding penalty until after a commercial break. So it just, you never see the victories. You just see the failures. And this one was pretty big, and this one hurt pretty bad. And not everybody is perfect every week. That's a bad thing about it too. But there are definitely public failures, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is one of them. It's not immune for the whole organization. Joey Logano earlier in the race had to come back in for a second time because his crew left one of the wheels loose, and that's one of the first things we always hear from fans on social media and stuff is like, why don't we have the 22s pit crew? And Steve will also be pretty quick to point out the fact that the pit crew from a couple of years ago, when we were under Todd Gordon as crew chief, a lot of that was that 22 team that won a championship in 2018. So we did have the 22 pit crew for a while. The other thing we see a lot about is, why don't they fire everybody? Why don't they replace everybody? They were so bad last year. Why didn't they make any changes? They did make a pretty huge change, especially for a team at Penske, in the fact that our front tire changer, Ryan Flores, the tire carrier, and the jackman on this 12 pit crew are all different guys than started the 2022 season with Ryan Blaney. So that's a massive overhaul of the pit crew. So
there's a guy from last year's pit crew who is with another pit crew now that won a race last week. So it's not, sometimes it might be one person, but the truth is they still have to learn and how to operate together and work as a team together. And I, Stacking Pennies, I love listening to Stacking Pennies because Ryan Flores is on there every week. He is pretty honest about what happens. And a couple of weeks ago when he had the problems, he explained them. He talked about them. He talked about the issues. This week when it comes out, I'll be really interested to hear what he has to say about what happened there too. Are they going to do better? They're trying to every week, This week will be different because it's Bristol and there really won't be any real... I don't even know if the pit crews even go to Bristol.
Yeah, they probably won't. Mostly the road crew is probably going to take care of the car and that kind of stuff. But it's one of those situations where they made a mistake. It was incredibly costly, especially since through the rest of this recap, you're going to see that things just, cautions and lucky dogs and things just don't fall the team's way. Like they do sometimes, and honestly, like they've done. Ryan was speeding at Atlanta, and he got a really timely caution to get back on the lead lap through free pass position, but that just doesn't happen in this race. So the only people that feel worse about this mistake, besides us and Ryan and maybe Hassler, is those guys on the pit crew. They don't want to let us down. They don't want to let Ryan down. They don't want to let the team down. But it's a professional sport, and they have to figure out a way to move on. And if not, like I said, they made changes last year. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't want to see any changes because I don't want to see any more mistakes. So hopefully that they can move on from this, rebound at Bristol just finish wise, and then rebound with their pit stops going forward the rest of the season. But I think with that's probably enough on that topic. I always hate talking about it anyway, but I always feel like we do have to address it because we can't
gotta be honest,
brush this under the rug or anything.
You got to be honest about it. But these guys, like I said, they're still jumping over a wall with a car barreling down on them and having to run around it and do things. And, they have to be better as the year goes. This was bad this weekend, but if you can get better and get better and get better, and then those last 10 weeks, you only have to be really good about 3 or 4 times in those last 10 weeks. Win 2 or 3 races, win the big one, and they were really close to doing that last year. So that's another thing. Last year, as the year went on, they got really good. And the last 4 races. They were probably one of the top teams on pit road in the last 4 races last year. So, I mean, because Ryan had a chance to get to the final without even a win. And then in the final race, he, was a better car than the 22 all day too. So, let's just keep doing that. Let's just keep working on getting better. And, hopefully we see something better in the next couple of weeks when they come back out to perform. So we do get, I still follow the race, a lap or 2 down, trying to battle back. They do a good job of battling, or at least trying to get to the lead lap and so forth. So at lap 186, he passes the 13, the 43, gets to 28th. At lap 190, he's up to 27th. At lap 200, he's in 28th, and the 24 leads here. And at lap 208, we got the 20 car taking the lead. So here's a bunch of those lead changes. Lap 213, Josh tells him there's 2 more positions right in front of him. So a couple laps later, he does pass the 2 for 27th, and at lap 222 passes the 16 for 26th. The 11 takes stage 2. We're in 26, 1 lap down. There's only 19 cars on the lead lap, so he's got 4 or 5 cars you got to try to pass. I got 9 cars being a lap down. They do some air pressure here. They're working on trying to get the lucky dog. Once again, they're +3 on this pit stop. They gain 3 positions over some of the other cars a lap down. So they come out, pitting 26, come out 23rd. The 11 takes the bottom, Ryan takes the top, restarting at lap 241. At lap 225, he's in 22nd, and he's chasing the 3 for the lucky dog. So here we are. We're at a point where, and watching the racing through the in-car camera is really interesting, because you trying to keep track of where the 3 is, but then you're battling some other cars that are on the lead lap. He's running lap times that are better than the tail end of the lead lap too. So at lap 251, he passes the 3, and he's in 21st. He's the lucky dog at this point. So now we're hoping for that quick caution to come, but we get this long run out here, I think. The 11's leading. At lap 265, he kind of bobbles a little bit because the 34 goes by him. At lap 282, he says it's too tight center. The drive is okay. And then at lap 289, we start some green flag pitting, and this is where things will get spread out again a little bit. But lap 294, they do pit. The 19 takes the lead on this pit cycle, but he's in 25th now. He's 2 laps down. So at lap 303, he's up to 24th. And at lap 305, we get a caution for the 42 car. And this really sucks because they were working their way to maybe getting their lap back. They were faster than the leader, and they were catching him.
Yeah, they're really close to getting that lap back just to try and stay alive here. And
yeah,
I think from what Ryan says on the radio and stuff, it's a little bit demoralizing.
Yeah,
just knowing that you're like, they're just trying to have hope. And we actually see this, because toward the end of this race, we do get some multiple cautions to where guys do get back on the lead lap that had bad days.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just unfortunate. I mean, the team strategy wise is doing everything they can to stay out as long as they could, probably to stay in that kind of free pass area. And then they just don't get the break that they need.
So, they're 10 laps on their tires, but they're 2 laps down. So if the leaders do pit here, we're going to wave around. Ryan says, one more thing could go wrong would be perfect. Being sarcastic there a little bit. The 19 is leading at this point, and we do get Ryan taking the bottom here with the 19 taking the bottom. He's now racing the 7 and 23 for the lucky dog. Now, Ryan took the wave around, but the 7 and 23 were a lap down, and they took tires. So this is going to be kind of tough because you've got 9-10 lap old tires trying to chase them. Lap 340, it spreads out enough where it's real quiet on the radio. Josh really doesn't say much unless somebody's coming up on him with fresher tires. But he's not really gaining on the 7 and 23 here at this point either. Lap 350, we get more green flag stops. They're going long. They're trying for a well-timed caution here. But lap 260, 360, they're pitting. And and the 24 is the leader passes him as they're pitting here. So they're back to 2 laps down again. Lap 270, he does pass the 31, then the 2, he's up to 27th, and then at lap 271, we get a caution for the 45. Once again, they're 2 down, but they're going to wave around again. The leaders pit, they wave around to get down to 1 lap down. The 5 takes the lead at this point. And the 9 is all the way up to P2 on their strategy that they played out.
Now, we mentioned people having issues on pit road here. The 24 had the lead going into that pit stop, and then they came out, third or fourth?
Yeah.
Third or fourth in line. So you talk about, pit crews having big impacts on the race there. It's like they didn't necessarily have a mistake, but they had some sort of a hiccup in their process that, they went from the lead to what you'll talk about here in the next few laps, what happens to them.
Yeah, so we're racing the 16, the 3, the 7 for the lucky dog. The restart lap was at 379. Then we get a caution for the 24 being spun out by the 20/1, so depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, that's a funny situation that occurs. And Bell referred to the one as getting caught up by the wrecking ball. And I had to move up the track, and then he got into the 24, and then I'm watching the replay. Tons of people are watching the replay, and they're like, well, the one does take him 3 wide, but he takes him 3 wide like 20 feet from him, and it was almost like the 20 was just like got scared, and then he was afraid of what was going to happen, and he actually ends up taking the 24 out. So I'm convinced at this point that the one could just be at home watching the race and could still get blamed for a caution.
Yeah, pretty much you're blamed for something.
But that's what happens when you build a reputation like that, though. So what are you going to do?
That's it. Stay away from him. Don't touch him. So they're lap down at this point. So they do come get tires because the other cars that are lap down are going to get tires. So they gain 1 spot on pit road again over some of these cars. So they're up to 27th here. They're racing. They're behind. Let's see. They're behind the 3 car racing him for the lucky dog. So, really would love to see him pass them and then have another caution happen, but doesn't really happen here. The restarts at lap 386. Like at lap 391, he's still chasing the 3 car. The 5 does end up winning. Ryan ends up 26th, 1 lap down. They do keep fighting. In-car camera is invaluable at that point because he's not running with the leaders. So we watch a lot of the in-car camera and keep trying to fight with them, trying to see if they can get to the lucky dog, see if something can happen while they're in the lucky dog position. They were in that position at one point, but nothing happened for a while, and then somebody else became the lucky dog, and he didn't end up getting it. Not the day his quote's the same way, not the day they were looking for, on to Bristol. Just like Belichick used to say, I'm on to Cincinnati. So I'm on to Bristol.
Yeah, and I'm hoping the race report after Bristol, his quote, I feel like we've seen that too many times recently. Not the day we're looking for, or even, what he says on the radio at the end of a bad run, thanks for sticking with it, guys. It's like those are the 2 things I almost never want to hear, because that means that they've had some sort of a challenge during the day. And in this case, the last challenging race, they finished 21st, and here, they finished even worse than that. So, unfortunately, with those last couple of finishes here, and the fact that the 4 Hendrick Motorsports cars were gifted their 100 points back in appeal, because somehow they broke the rule, but not bad enough. Yeah. So they get their points back. Right now, Ryan Blaney drops, I think. So after they got their points back, I think he dropped around the 8th position. Now, after this race, Ryan's dropped to 11th in the NASCAR Cup Series standings with 188 points. Now 75 points back of the leader, Alex Bowman. I think last week or so, I think he was in the 34 or 40-ish points back. So 75 points back now in the 11th position. The winner this week was the 6th, or with Larson winning, that's a 6th different winner in 7 races. I know people thought maybe we weren't going to see the same number of winners that we did last year, which I think is probably still going to be true, but 6 out of 7, that's pretty impressive that with this next gen car, the field is still Pretty level though. All the Hendrick Motorsports cars except for, well, I guess Bowman and Chase is out. So a couple of them have picked up wins this season.
Another
Teammate Joey
Chevy.
Logano's picked up a win, and yeah, it's another Chevy that's won. So they've been pretty dominant, especially when it's come to raw speed this year with the Fords qualifying well on plate tracks or plate like tracks, but it's not going to cut it on a lot of those other tracks there. So points position wise, I felt a little bit better a couple of weeks ago, just being only, a couple stage points away from being back up in the top 5, but they definitely have dug themselves a hole a little bit. But luckily this week coming up, I don't know if it's lucky though, because it's kind of a wild card race, but they're on to Bristol Motor Speedway, but it's going to be the dirt version of Bristol Motor Speedway. If you want to catch the action this week, I mean, there's just a ton going on because the stuff is going to start on Friday, April 7th, when they're going to have a first practice at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on FS1 for the Cup Series. After that, at 8 o'clock, you've got the Truck Series practice, 8:30 p.m. You have the Cup Series final practice also on FS1. Saturday, there is a lot going on between the Cup Series practice and qualifying, or qualifying races, I should say, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then you have the truck race at 7, which there's just a ton of guys, Jonathan Davenport, Joey Logano, lots of interlopers attempting to make the race in the Truck Series. So that's just going to be something you're going to want to have an appetizer of again, just get a feel. If you haven't really paid attention to the dirt races the last couple of years, it kind of gives you a feel of what the Cup race might go by. Ryan, and then also on Sunday, if you want to catch the actual race. So it's kind of cool what Bristol's doing for the people that were there. We did attend this race last year. It was really cool. They do have a church service celebration at 4:30 p.m. They're going to play that on the air on FS1 at 4:30. And then race day starts at 5:30 on FS1, moves over to Fox at 6, and then the actual Cup race for a second year in a row, it's going to happen at night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So once everybody, if you celebrate Easter, if you get all that done during the day, even if you have some dinner, then this can kind of be your dessert for the evening, and that's seeing the NASCAR Cup Series race. Ryan Blaney, in the 2 starts on dirt, has an average start of 14th in 2 straight top 10 finishes, 8th, and then a top 5 in the last race in 2022. So, like I said, in one of those cars, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, maybe it was the first year.
2 years ago, where
destroyed. Destroyed. They made a die cast out of it. That was pretty cool. But yeah, that was an 8th place finish, and then somehow he survived for a 5th place finish last year. And last year's race was kind of plagued with rain. It was a little bit miserable being there in person, just because it was really like a persistent mist, which I guess thankfully it was, because it actually kind of kept the track a little bit tacky and brought the dust level down. But he's finished really well. And it's, Ryan's not, everyone always talks about Ryan Blaney growing up in the Blaney family, prolific dirt racers. But he has, little to no experience in, sprint cars, modifieds, anything like that on dirt. Lots of practice laps from what I understand, but not much beyond that. But in his 2 races on dirt in the Cup Series, and he ran pretty well on not super great finishes on the dirt in the Truck Series, but pretty good record there in the Cup Series. Now, is it a fluke? Is it a wild card race? The leaders crashed going to the checkered flag last year, and Busch picked up a victory. So all I got to say, if Ryan can put himself in position like he did with that top 5 last year, you just got to, in a track like this, got to put yourself in position, then hopefully you can capitalize.
Saturday, it's what? There's a qualifying, and then there are heat races, correct?
Yes. So all of that's going to happen. Yeah. All that's going to happen on Saturday, starting at, what does it say? So the Cup Series qualifying races are at 6. So I'm not sure if they have they have a final practice, and I don't remember exactly how the qualifying races are.
I thought they ran qualifying first, and then they split them up by the qualifying into heats.
Maybe.
I thought that's what they did last year. So that's really kind of cool too, because then it gives you 1 through 4, kind of like the setup that they have at the Clash. Except everybody will make it. So yeah, I mean, well, yeah, because the size of the track, everybody can make it. So, That's the fun part on Saturday. The only problem with Saturdays is it's on FS2, which is just, so hopefully it'll be on the Fox Sport app, because if it's on the app, I can at least watch it that way.
You're right. I did say that wrong. Yeah, it's on FS2, not FS1. Even the truck series race, though, at least gets onto FS1. But yeah, the qualifying races, which probably might be one of the more exciting things for the weekend. Unfortunately, yeah, FS2, and a lot of folks don't get that. So we'll try to keep people updated, at least on social media, to do what we can. But yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah. But definitely looking forward to it. I like the dirt. I like that that's something a little bit different. And I think these guys are pretty good at it, really.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it last year, probably in our recap thing. It's like, I really I enjoyed our experience there. It was cool to see. They do some really awesome stuff, even after, the cup races are over, with lots of, World of Outlaw type of events and other short track series that come in will race there. It's kind of exciting for them to get that opportunity. I just think there's plenty of really good dirt tracks out there that they could go and hold this race at and keep a second race there on the concrete at Bristol, just because I'm a little bit more nostalgic for that. But the race last year ended up being pretty good, pretty exciting, pretty dramatic. It's a little jarring at first when you're there in person. I know you got to see some of the trucks running there when you guys went out there. The cars do run pretty slow, but the action's pretty good, because a lot of these guys are out of their element, so it equalizes the field a little bit. Interested to see what some of those dirt ringers that are coming in, like Davenport and some other folks that are going to run cup cars. I don't know how, they didn't really do that great last year, because they're jumping in a car that's not meant to be on the dirt at all. Doesn't handle like it should on the dirt at all. But you did see guys like Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe, who were really good dirt racers growing up. They were the two battling for the lead, so maybe there's something to it. The one that it really hasn't turned out that great for is probably one of the most prolific dirt racers right now in the country, and that's Kyle Larson, who only does it part-time. So maybe he comes up finally this year and takes back-to-back wins in the Cup Series. I don't know. So that's Bristol. Again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's stuff to watch. If you have FS2, hopefully you do, you'll be able to tune into some of that. At least you'll be able to see most of you will be able to see the truck race on Saturday night on FS1, and then following that up on Sunday with the Cup Series on Fox. So another segment, I feel like I dread this every week when we go over this, and that is our segment when we recap what happened this past week in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. Steve and I have been chatting about this since Sunday, and the fact that our league, I have to say, has to be just incredibly competitive compared to some other leagues that are out there. I'm going to go through my starting lineup here, and I don't think I had a bad week, and I finished like 64th in the league, which I find is pretty insane. So I'm going to go over my starting lineup here that I had for the race at Richmond. I thought I put all the heavy hitters in here, guys that are good at Richmond consistently. And you know what? They were all actually pretty good. Alex Bowman got me 37 points. Denny Hamlin got me 27. He kind of imploded on himself with his 2 pit road speeding penalties and some of the other antics that he had throughout the day. Martin Truex Jr. got me 33 points. He was another one that almost had a chance at the victory. Kevin Harvick got me 41 points. Kyle Busch was a little bit mediocre on the day, but still got me 23. I left Ryan in the garage, which was unfortunately was a good move. He only scored 11 points. I picked Hamlin over Truex. That was wrong in the featured matchups. I picked Harvick over Keselowski. That was right. I picked Logano over Bell. That was wrong by just a couple of positions. And I picked Chastain over Byron, which was right. So I split the difference on the featured matchups, and I thought I had a pretty solid lineup there. Got me like a little over 180 points, but still was only good for about 60th, 64th or something like that in points earned for the week. Steve, on the other hand, ended up having a pretty solid week yet again. Let's talk about your lineup because I'm interested.
Yeah, not bad. I had Bowman with 37 points. I had William Byron there with 31, and could have been even more. Tyler Reddick was my weak link at 26 points there. I had Larson, who gained 52 points, and then Chastain, who gained 48. I kept Ryan in the garage too. Hamlin over Truex. Once again, that was wrong. I did have Harvick over Keselowski. I had Bell over Logano, but then I had Byron over Chastain. That was wrong. So kind of split the matchups up a little bit. But it was really good having guys that finished, with a lot of stage points, and like Chastain did, and Larson too. I mean, Chastain was 14 stage points. Larson was 12 stage points.
Wow.
Byron was 18 stage points. So even though he didn't have a great finish, he still had some points to back up the finish. So this week is total just throw them in a blender. Truthfully, you can look at the last 2 years and how they finished. Yeah, not too bad. And there was enough points to keep me up there in the standings pretty good.
Yeah, so let's take a look at those standings. Like I mentioned, I am for points earned at Richmond, I was in a 4-way tie in the 64th position with 181 points earned. But let's take a look all the way back up the list in the top 10. And we're going to start off with you, tied in the 10th position with Blaney's Daisy with 214 points earned at Richmond. Tie for 8th with Blaney the Goat and Clyde's Chicken Pit Racing with 216. 7th, Go Larson with 218. 6th, Frygal 12 with 219. NASCAR Nut 12 and Sam Speedsters in a tie for 4th with 220 points. Waterbug in 3rd with 224. Whip Wilson in second with 225, and then leading the way this week once again, Steel Lion, 228 points earned at Richmond, gives them the top spot this week. Let's jump over to the overall standings. I'll try to scroll down through to find myself still hanging around in the 40s. 45th position, Team Blaney host Adam, 1,214 points.
Oh no, you lost the lead in the house again.
I did, which is surprising because we tied, I think, for possibly the second week in a row here. But yeah, I'm losing the household lead. Let's take a look at where you're at though. And you're not even one of the first to mention because you're up a little bit higher. All right. Top 10 in the overall standings for the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League are as follows. 10th, Blaney or Bust, 1,325. In 9th, Blaney's Daisy, just 1 point more, 1,326. In the 8th position, holding it down, Mez 12, your team, 1,337. 7th, Eric D. 15, 1,340. 6th, Go Larson, 1,348. 5th, Epic Chickens 1916, 1,362. 4th, Christian Dana, 1,366. And 3rd, Frygal 12, 1,367. 2nd, Factory of Sadness 6, 1,401. And holding down the top position in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League, 7 races in after the race at Richmond Raceway, the Nutty Gamer, 1,421 points. So like
you were talking about like this week's, my total was what, 214.
Yep.
I'm in a couple other leagues where I just basically copy and paste the lineup, and they're a little bit smaller leagues, a little less people, but I finished first in both those leagues with 214. So that tells you how good people are in our league. We got some stiff competition every week. Yeah,
these people are really, really good, and it's been potentially one of our most competitive years, I think. Just with people, all the way down. I know it's still early in the season, but I would say at least 75 of the 100 people in the league have been setting lineups every single week. Some folks have forgotten here and there. But the participation has been off the charts this year. The competition has been off the charts this year, which maybe is unfortunate for somebody that's sitting in 45th, but but that's okay. You started to tease a little bit about who you might put on your lineup this week. It's a little bit of a crapshoot. It's maybe, I always kind of put a bunch of random people in when it comes to the races at Talladega and Daytona. And this one, man, I just don't. Honestly, I think I might need to go by the starting lineups just to see who might be able to get the most stage points, and then just see who can survive. And I haven't checked the weather forecast too, because man, I hope that weather's not a factor too. So
for the most part, not going to be real warm per se, but Saturday and Sunday as of right now, we're looking dry. I had it up a little earlier today. Saturday 59 is a high, and Sunday 67, and they're just looking at partly cloudy, partly sunny. Friday they're looking at some rain Friday in the afternoon, so that might kind of suck because you're looking at the early practice that day. It'd be nice to have that practice. And the only reason really not necessarily to dial the car in, but to dial the driver in because it's a little bit different type of racing. How you handle the wheel is totally different. And, to get some laps, just to give you some good consistent laps under the conditions, it's going to be kind of key. As far as picking a lineup, though, I think you got to look at how people finished the last 2 years. Might want to lean toward a Larson. And Larson's not finished well, but it's basically because of just crashing, and that's the other thing. You could be running top 5 and spin yourself out and have somebody collect into you. Or you could have a restart and all of a sudden 3 guys and into a corner and just somebody loses control and slides you up out of the way, so it's just so many different factors with dirt racing that are just a totally different car control than asphalt. So, when you do have a mistake or a problem, trying to get away from somebody else or somebody, coming into you, it's just totally different.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of contact in this race. There's going to be a lot of guys that aren't experienced enough that are going to be, and even guys that are experienced enough, they're going to be leaning on each other when they go through the turns. You're going to be, that happens a lot in dirt racing sometimes, at least in the Fender dirt racing, where you lean on a guy just to make a turn sometimes because you've made kind of a bold move to the bottom. So I'm hoping that they get to the finish with this one, though. The finish was dramatic last time. I'm hoping, if someone does have a really fast car, does have the track master, that they can pick up the win this year. Tyler Reddick had that one pretty much in the bank. The race was good with Briscoe to the end, but Briscoe just totally dive bombed him, didn't even try to make the corner. Probably was hoping that they would just kind of come together and door slam to the finish line, but that didn't happen. He took them both out. Kyle Busch gets gifted his only win of the season last year. So we'll have to see if Kyle can run up front again, see if Kyle Larson can run up front and stay up front. I think Briscoe might be somebody worth starting because he's not usually someone I'm going to have in my lineup on, a lot of other tracks this year. So maybe he's somebody I look at. I don't even know if Ryan's finished really well, so maybe he might be worth keeping at least in the garage. I'm not sure if I want to start him, though, at a track like this. So we'll have to see.
I don't know. I mean, last year he ran pretty well. He finished top 10 the year before. It'll be fun to watch on the in-car cam because from what I saw last year, he did a really good job of working on being able to run both lines.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the thing is if you can get a high thing going or a low thing going, can you get underneath somebody? Can you make a pass? Bristol's always been like that, whether there's dirt or asphalt on the track. How many laps do you run underneath somebody before you got to move them move them a little bit or something like that? So that'll be fun to watch. I mean, just hopefully nobody's holding them up. Hopefully he can get out there and maybe lead some laps. That'd be a fun thing to do.
Yeah. Just need to have a solid race. We need to get some stage points. We need to have a solid finish. Obviously I would love for another top 10. I'd really love for a victory, which has happened. Joey Logano, his teammate, went to the victory lane in the inaugural race there on the dirt at Bristol. So it can be done in a Penske car. We just have to see. It's all about pacing yourself, getting to the finish, staying clean, not breaking any toe links or anything crazy, and putting yourself in position to have a good finish when it comes down to that last stage. Well, Steve, I was a little bit worried about doing this episode just because of the things that happened this week, but I think we were able to kind of talk it through as we went, some of the challenges that we had, and I'm feeling a little bit better on the other side of this, and hopefully you do too. Yeah,
it's those ones where we're on to Bristol. You got to just kind of look ahead now. I mean, it's the power positivity thing, we always talk about, the fun part is there's another week after this week and there's another week after that. And, until you run out of weeks, you can win any week too, Ryan. And this team can win any week, coming up from now to the end of the year. And, I look forward to each week after a week like that. You got to shake that off, get it off your, get it out of your system. And, let's see what Bristol brings. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So thank you, everyone, once again for tuning into this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. If you'd like to learn more about myself or co-host Steve, just listen to our very first episode that explores our Blaney racing fandom. You can interact with us on Facebook and Twitter at Team Blaney, and on Instagram and TikTok at team.blaney. Finally, we'd like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Established in 2018, this organization supports causes like the Alzheimer's Association and UPMC Sports Medicine through fundraisers and events and membership in the Blaney Bunch fan club. To learn more, visit ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And they were out there this week, right?
So keep following them because this past week they were at Richmond. They had a tent set up. They have a new T-shirt out.
Yes,
that I read is going to be online here soon, so look for their online store for that. I know in the future weeks they're going to be at Talladega, correct? They did confirm that the tent's going to be at Talladega. Also, yesterday they premiered those yellow gloves that are going to be auctioned off. So Ryan has posted, and you have the Team Blaney accounts have retweeted and reposted the link to that. So go to the Team Blaney accounts or go to Ryan's Twitter because those gloves are really, really cool. They're bright yellow, but they've got the foundation logo on them. And any kind of auction like that's always for a good cause. So a lot of things going on with them. So make sure you check in with them on social media and see them at the track too. Like we're going to Talladega in a couple of weeks, so hopefully we'll see at their tent at Talladega.
Absolutely. And don't forget, they're taking registrations now for the second annual Driving for Good charity golf event at Topgolf University in Charlotte. And they have a whole level dedicated to fans this year where you can, at a pretty decent price, put a team together and go participate in that event. So check that out, all with the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation.
You don't even have to be a good golfer. Everybody, once again, talk to people like, I don't golf. No, don't worry about it. You just go out there and hit some balls, have some fun. There'll be some food and drink and a chance to meet Ryan, take a picture with him, hopefully. So, it's for charity. So, I don't claim to be a great golfer, but there were people we played with last year that weren't, we had a blast. So you don't have to worry about being a great golfer. You're not there to win the Masters or anything like that. So look into it and come on out and join us, and we'll have a good time.
Absolutely. So for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Brussels.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.